by and which ones. We've got photos on that. Do you want me to put it in any particular place?
No.
Just put it there. It's just called fair value calculation. Questions, thoughts? You know, going back to your question about whether I think gambling, whether poker is gambling or not, one of the things that I learned at an early age, just by sheer luck, is that really our minds are designed to think in two different ways. And if you're interested, there's a book by David Kahneman, who won a Nobel Prize for what's known as behavioral economics, called Thinking Fast and Slow. And there are certain types of problems where we think fast and we just immediately know the answer. And when I say problems, I don't mean math problems or anything else. I mean just situations in daily life. Because what your mind is really doing is it's always comparing something to a benchmark. And, you know, the story, the way I tell it is that if our ancestors, and when I say our ancestors, I mean going back millions of years, were walking across the savannah in Africa, and they came across a lion, they did not stop to think, how far away is the, well, first of all, is it a lion? Does the lion appear hungry? How far away is the lion? How far away is the tree? How far away is that tree? Which tree do I go up? You know, if they had thought that way, we wouldn't be around, because the lion would have eaten all of us, all of our ancestors. Instead, what happens is you see the lion, and you just immediately run for the nearest tree. And that's the thinking fast. It's just conditioned like that. And it's really a survival, in a very large sense, kind of conditioning that goes on in your mind. But then your mind is capable of doing something very, very different, which is sort of, you know, how far away, how far can you run, that kind of stuff. And when you go to school, what you're really being taught is you're being taught how to think slow, how to go through that very rigorous thought process, which gets you to a certain kind of answer. Now, there's certain kinds of problems that if you were to use the think fast, you would make just horrendous mistakes. And people have. You know, people thought the world was flat, because to all extents and purposes, it looks flat. But if you actually do a lot of calculations, you realize long before Columbus sailed across the seas that the world was round. Okay? So when you're in school, you're taught all these techniques about thinking slow. But when you're dealing with most problems, you're really dealing with both things. You're dealing with thinking fast and you're dealing with thinking slow. So in poker, the thinking slow is all the odds. And when the card comes out, knowing what the next set of odds is. The thinking fast is taking in the whole picture and figuring out whether you're the fish or the other person is the fish. But it creates a real challenge in a class or in an investment kind of context, because you really haven't been confronted with the kinds of things, the kind of experience that will allow you to do that thinking fast. All you've got is the thinking slow part. So for me, it's very easy to look at these numbers and say, that should be 17. Not 16, not 20. It should be 17. For you, you've got absolutely no frame of reference. So for you, it's all a mystery, and it makes it look very, very hard. So I try to show you the thinking slow part, how you can think through it. But it's only by doing something like this that you really gain the experience, that you sort of look at it and sort of say, nah, it's 17. It's not 16. It's not 20. It's 17. And that's tricky, and some people never get there. Some people absolutely never get there. The other thing I know is that when you deal in the investment business, I always used to listen very, very carefully to the people that had relatively little experience. Because on the one hand, I had to worry that they were going to do something really, really stupid, but I'd seen so much that if the world had changed, what I was trying to do was I was trying to answer the problem from all this experience that I had. But if the world had changed, I couldn't see that. I was trapped with all this experience. They, on the other hand, had none of it. And so they could come up with those ideas. And so what I always used to argue the trick was to hire young people and let them go. And your job, if you were in the position I was in, was to make sure they didn't do things that were truly, truly stupid. Because the truly stupid things repeat about every 20 years. So I've seen enough to know when the stupid things are repeating. But you might not. Like it was very, very clear to me that what was going on before 2008 and what was going on in 2000 was just an absolute bubble. I got the details wrong, but I just knew it was crazy. But on the other hand, I've had people come up with things that my first inclination would be to say, oh my God. And it's a real, you've got to have a lot of discipline to listen to people that see things in a very different way and not say, oh my God. The first thing you've got to do is forget what you're trying to do. Just keep that part shut down and try to listen very carefully to what they want to do. And only after you think you really understand why they came to that conclusion do you start layering back what you know on top of it. So it's quite a game, but it's a fun game. But if you feel frustrated and you sort of feel, oh my God, he taught me all of this, but none of this makes any sense, and we're just going to make stupid mistakes, don't worry about it, because you don't have the reference frame to do it the way I do it. Do it the way you do it. And if it's really stupid, I'll tell you that's really stupid, and here's why. But otherwise, just go for it. Okay? I've been reading a book by an artist from Southern California. And the only reason I'm reading it is because I'm taking a class and I have to read it. But it's absolutely fascinating because he goes through exactly what I just told you in an entirely different context. We're all built the same way. Okay? But next time, we got to have numbers. Understood?